Yodit Tewolde, and this is Making the Case. We begin with breaking news. Just hours ago, actor Jussie Smollett was convicted by a Cook County jury of staging and reporting a hate crime, ending a week-long trial over what transpired in Chicago almost 3 years ago. After deliberating for almost 9 hours over 2 days, the jury found Smollett guilty of 5 out of 6 counts of disorderly conduct for lying to police. Smollett told police he was attacked by 2 men just blocks from his home in Chicago back in January of 2019. He said the attackers put a noose around his neck, doused him with bleach, and hurled racist and homophobic slurs at him. During the trial, the prosecution argued Smollett staged the attack for publicity. On the stand, Smollett told jurors there was no hoax, but his testimony was clearly rejected by the jury. Joining us from Chicago, BNC correspondent Derek Lewis. Derek, walk us through how the evening played out there at the Cook County Courthouse, please.
Yeah, so let's take you back first to talk about the counts here. There are a total of 6 counts of disorderly conduct, and Jussie Smollett has been found guilty of 5 of them. Counts 1 through 5 refers to each time he initially told a police officer he had been a victim of the attack he says happened back in January of 2019. Count 6, which the jury did not find him guilty of, refers to Smollett telling a detective weeks later that he'd been the victim of an aggravated battery. Now, Smollett, who openly identifies as gay, told police that 2 men who are brothers and knew the actor beforehand yelled racist and homophobic slurs at him, wrapped a rope around his neck, and poured some type of substance on him. Now, Chicago police say after spending hours, hundreds of hours, looking at surveillance video, nothing shows the attack Smollett says happened. Now, the actor maintained his innocence throughout the entire trial. Jussie Smollett spent about 2 hours inside this courthouse this evening. He arrived with an entourage once an announcement had been made that a verdict had been reached. Now, walking inside, he ignored questions from reporters asking how he felt ahead of the verdict. Now that he has been convicted, the disorderly conduct charge is a felony, and Smollett could be sentenced up to 3 years in prison. However, legal experts have said it is likely that he'll be placed on probation or ordered to perform community service. Yodit.
Derek, thank you so much for that report. All right, now to my legal experts who are ready to weigh in. Criminal defense attorneys Joseph Tully and Tony Thedford. Counselors, thank you so much for coming on tonight. First, I want reactions. Tony, you're there in Chicago. You've come on before to discuss this trial. Tell me, are we surprised by the verdict?
Well, I'm not surprised by the verdict. I don't think anyone here in Chicago is surprised by the verdict. It has been interesting, though, the amount of time it took to get to this point. I was of the belief as this drug on that perhaps there will be an acquittal in this case. I'm a defense lawyer, so I always root for an acquittal. But that did not happen. So we're not surprised, but are impressed by this jury who did a lot of hard work. And I think the finding of not guilty on count 6 is indicative of the work that they put in to come to a conclusion that was consistent with the evidence that they had heard in this case.
Joseph, yes, it's interesting that Tony brought up how long this jury took to come to a verdict, about 9 hours to reach a decision. Your reaction to the verdict?
Well, you can never predict what a jury is going to do, really. I think when you're younger, you make predictions, and as you get more experienced in this field, you don't even bother doing that anymore. I agree with everything that Tony said. As time went on, I started thinking, hey, this might be an acquittal, but it looks like they carefully went through all of the counts, and they worked hard, and I think the evidence was overwhelming in this case, and they did convict him based on the evidence and the law.
So let's talk about what this actual case meant. I mean, this was a classic example of a he said case, right? Where a lot of claims were made by the prosecution. The defense offered up some plausible explanations, but a lot of it seemed so confusing. And at times I canceled out some of the testimony from both the prosecution's witnesses and Jussie, and decided his guilt based on the evidence that the defense just couldn't explain away. And that was how the brothers, who claimed that they were paid to carry out this fake attack, how they knew where Jussie would be at the exact moment that he'd be there. Joseph, what facts and evidence do you think the jury hung their decision on?
So I think you're right. I think the brothers were the star witnesses, but the corroborating evidence, for instance, the $3,500 check that was paid to them, the video of them going around getting the supplies needed for the attack before the attack, I think that was irrefutable. Also, Mr. Smollett did not give up his cell phone, nor did he give up his DNA, so he wasn't cooperating with the investigation, and I think that was indicative of something as well.
Tony, your thoughts?
I actually agree with you, Yodit. I think that the crucial analysis was how they knew where he would be at the time that he was there. I think that the $100 to buy the equipment could have been explained away. The $3,500 had a plausible explanation because of personal training, and there was no dispute that there was a personal training relationship. But when it came down to those specific coincidences and finding Jussie Smollett at that place and at that time, I think that that part was the portion that could not be explained by the defense. And we can never be sure what was the basis of the jury's finding, but I think logic would dictate that that was an unexplained fact that the defense could not get around.
Well, Tony, let me ask you, it seemed Jussie had no choice but to take the stand to tell his side of the story and refute the claims made by the prosecution's star witnesses, the Osendero brothers. But do you think his performance, his combativeness on the stand hurt him more than it helped?
Well, I think there are two sides of that. Again, I think that the challenge of the prosecutor for his use of the N-word, I think was very effective. And I think that may have even led to this extension in terms of how long it took the jury to reach its verdict. I think that those sort of performances actually landed with the jury and gave them some pause. It is difficult for any defendant to testify in a case. It is particularly difficult when that defendant is on the witness stand over multiple days, over multiple hours. So I don't give too much criticism to Smollett for having lost his cool a couple of times, because that's natural. I believe that if he were too composed or too robotic, that would have worked against him. So I don't really criticize, what I noted of his testimony. But, the jury had the last word, and apparently it didn't work. So, in terms of objectively viewing his testimony, I thought that he attempted to acquit himself well, but the jury disagreed.
Joseph, do you think the verdict would have been the same had he not taken the stand?
Well, he might have acquitted himself of the sixth count. He was convicted of only 5, and the jury did give him a not guilty on count 6. So his testimony might have helped the jury maybe reach even a compromise on that last count by giving him a bone. So if he didn't take the stand, there might have been a guilty verdict on everything, and it might have been a lot quicker.
All right, guys, we've got more to discuss with my team of lawyers. So, Tony, Joseph, please stand by. We've got more Making the Case after this quick break. After a 12-person jury deliberated for more than 9 hours over 2 days, actor Jussie Smollett was found guilty of all but one charge in the trial centered around what Smollett reported to police as a hate crime back in 2019. Still with me are criminal defense attorneys Joseph Tully and Tony Thedford. All right, guys, let's talk about what's next, and that's sentencing. A disorderly conduct charge for falsely reporting a crime is a Class 4 felony and punishable by up to 3 years in prison and a $25,000 fine. We all know that Jussie will more than likely get probation, but there are some legal experts who are saying that he exposed himself to jail time when he testified in court. Joseph, to you first. What are your thoughts on that?
Sure. So one thing that people should be aware of is that there's either prison time, and if you don't get prison time, then that's probation. So he's going to get probation because I don't see a judge sending him to prison. But as part of his probation, he might do actual jail time versus not just doing community service. So it'll still be probation, but there is a threat of possible jail time, but hopefully it'll be ankle monitor or community service or something like that.
Tony, the judge heard what Jussie said on the stand, and obviously he could consider it in his decision. Your thoughts?
You know, I know this judge. I've tried cases in front of this judge over the last couple of decades. He is known to be fair. And generally in Illinois, if a person has zero background and they're convicted for their first time, probation is the recommended sentence. So it is my gut feeling that he will get probation in this case. I do not believe that this judge will attempt to make him an example in any way. I think that this judge attempts to treat similarly situated people the same. So I'm optimistic for Jussie Smollett that he will get probation. Community service makes sense. And we have to remember there is another case that's pending here in Chicago, a civil case where the city has sued Jussie Smollett for $130,000. So I don't know if the court, this judge will consider that when determining whether or not to attempt to fine him in this case, which is also a possibility. So I think it'll be interesting, but I would be completely shocked if he got anything more than probation and some sort of community service, which I think is appropriate and consistent with what typically happens with these cases in Cook County, where I've practiced for 25 years.
Guys, let's assume that there could have been a plea deal that was made between the prosecution and the defense. Was taking this case to trial the smart move, especially given Jussie's celebrity and the attention that it got? Joseph?
Well, a lot of it depends on the prosecution or the judge. If they're not making a good offer, then you have no choice. You can't back out. You can't say, I don't like this. I'm not going to play. If there are charges pending and they don't make a plea deal that your client accepts, you go to trial. And it's kind of a warrior attitude, and that's where we were at. So if they could have negotiated a plea bargain, in hindsight, now it would have been a better deal. But we don't know where the government was coming from. Maybe the government was going too harsh and they didn't have a choice.
Tony, some would argue that this case went too far, that we've seen so many examples of white women, for example, calling police, making false claims, and never really being held accountable until these, moments were being, caught on camera and going viral. But that this was a case of politics involved, Jussie being a celebrity and being used as an example. Not to say that he wasn't guilty. I think a lot of people believe that he was lying, but still didn't think it should have gotten this far. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I am of the belief that cases like this can be resolved in ways outside of a criminal trial, outside of criminal consequences, consequences for which you could never get away from, even if you only have probation. We say only probation, but that is a criminal conviction that you will carry like a cross for the rest of your life. So it is a huge consequence that he's found guilty. It will be a huge consequence if he's given probation. But we have to understand the backdrop of this case. Originally, when Mr. Smollett was charged, those charges were dropped. And based on the dropping of those charges, there was a huge political blow up here in Chicago. And a special prosecutor, as you noted, took over this case. This case was not handled by Kim Fox, our prosecutor here in Cook County. It was handled by a special prosecutor. So my belief is that there was really never a deal to be had, because once they indicted him on what would be, I guess, the second time he was charged, an example was to be made of him. So I think it would be naive to believe that there was a plea deal that was available to him that he should have taken. On the other hand, I'm not sure that he would have taken a plea deal. If you recall, when he originally got his deal the first time, the one that was criticized, he then goes on TV and starts talking about it. And that was almost throwing mud in the face of kind of the process that got him that benefit. So that added fuel to the fire here. They made sure he was charged, and he's now been convicted, which satisfies, I believe, many of the powers that be here in Cook County, Illinois.
Joseph, I've got like less than 30 seconds, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on this. Jussie was a rising star when all of this happened, and I mean at the height of his career, and doing this for attention, and then this happening is such an unfortunate way to end his career. I mean, is his career over? Can he bounce back from this?
I would like to think so. And I'd also like to think that redemption should be part of our society. It used to be. Why can't he come to society now and be redeemed? Show that he's a good person, he took his lumps, and move on from it. And we let him move on from it.